Imagine this. Someone says they won't date a short guy and everyone defends it as just a preference. Now imagine someone says they won't date an overweight person and now the comments turn into a war zone. Same concept, different reactions. And this is why dating standards are one of the most controversial conversations on the internet. Because everyone believes they should be accepted for who they are until attraction enters the conversation. Then everything changes. Let's be honest, the internet has become obsessed with body positivity, self-love, and acceptance. And on paper, that's great because most people agree no one deserves to be bullied because of their appearance. But modern dating apps, modern dating culture, and social media have greatly affected what appearance is. And people are told not to judge, but then judging potential partners. And that's where the contradiction begins. Here's something that makes a lot of people uncomfortable because unfortunately, attraction isn't democratic. So you can't vote your way into someone's dating preference. You can't argue someone into finding you attractive, and you definitely can't shame someone because of what they like. Because whether it's height, weight, style, personality, or confidence, people have preferences, and that's just reality. And the problem starts where we start accepting certain preferences and denying others. Social media then creates standards, but it absolutely amplified them because for the first time in human history, people compare themselves to thousands of strangers every single day. Perfect faces, perfect bodies, perfect lifestyles, and perfect relationships. Except most of it isn't real. Photos are edited, filters exist, and angles are manipulated. And once these images are seen enough, people's expectations start to rise. Not because they're bad people, but because they're humans. And the more unrealistic content you consume, the more unrealistic your expectations become. And let's talk about the part where nobody really agrees on, double standards. Because double standards are split into two groups. The first group is treated as completely normal, whilst the other group is treated as offensive. For example, height preferences are usually acceptable, whilst weight preferences are unacceptable. Financial preferences are usually common, but physical appearance preferences can be controversial. And depending on who says what, the public can treat it very differently. Because people aren't just debating attraction, they're debating fairness. And that's why this conversation never ends. And here's the uncomfortable question. Do your standards align with your reality? Not whether or not you're allowed to have standards, because everyone is allowed to have standards. But the real question is, do these standards match up with your reality? Because people will often demand qualities from others that they don't bring out themselves. And this creates a lot of frustration, not because of standards, but because your expectations are disconnected from your reality. The truth most people tend to ignore is we all judge appearance to a certain degree. And most people notice looks before personality, and that's okay because that's human nature. But personality often determines if attraction lasts because a healthy relationship isn't built on a checklist but on compatibility, trust, respect, and shared interest. And the internet tends to ignore that part because it's honestly not as entertaining. So, are dating standards harmful? Not necessarily. Are body standards harmful? Sometimes. But can both be true at the same time? Yeah, absolutely. But the real issue isn't preference, but the fact that modern culture keeps sending us mixed signals. We're told that looks don't matter, everyone is beautiful, yet every social media trend, dating app, and algorithm tells us differently. And it all comes down to this. Because people don't want to be judged, yet refuse to stop judging others. And this conversation is never going to find an end because we're never going to address this contradiction. Maybe the real question isn't whether standards are fair, but rather, are we willing to apply the same rules to ourselves that we apply to everyone else? But that's just my opinion, and let me know what you think in the comments. Are double standards getting unrealistic, or people just finally being honest about what they've always wanted? Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.